fourth round of a Grand Slam singles tournament and capturing the attention of the entire tennis world with her remarkable performances at Wimbledon, Alex returned home not as an emerging talent but as a genuine national hero. Her unforgettable campaign included one of the biggest victories of her career, defeating a former world number one on the most prestigious grass courts in the world and proving beyond any doubt that she belongs among the elite players in women's tennis. Her fearless performances, calm composure under pressure, and relentless determination turned her into one of the biggest stories of the
for this special honor and for the warm welcome. I never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I would be having dinner here at Malacanang, at the Malacanang Palace next to you, and be receiving such kind and generous.
The entire nation wanted to celebrate the young woman who had carried the Philippine flag onto one of the biggest stages in international sport and represented her country with extraordinary pride, grace, and excellence. Even the President of the Philippines made it clear that Alex's accomplishments deserved recognition at the very highest level, ensuring that the world understood just how proud the nation had become of its newest sporting icon. The celebrations began the very moment Eala's plane landed at Ninoy Aquino International Airport after traveling through Bangkok following an unforgettable European campaign. She arrived expecting what many athletes experience after an overseas tournament: a quiet return home, perhaps a few interviews, and a chance to rest before preparing for the next competition. Instead, she walked into one of the most emotional homecomings ever given to a Filipino athlete. As she emerged from Terminal 3, she was greeted by an overwhelming crowd of supporters whose cheers echoed throughout the arrival hall. Fans proudly waved Philippine flags, held handmade welcome signs, raised their mobile phones to capture the historic moment, and applauded continuously as Alex made her way through the terminal. The atmosphere was filled with excitement, gratitude, and national pride, reflecting just how deeply her Wimbledon success had resonated with millions of Filipinos. Waiting to receive her was an impressive delegation representing the highest levels of Philippine sports. Among those present were the chairman of the Philippine Sports Commission, the president of the Philippine Olympic Committee, and the Secretary General of the Philippine Tennis Association, all gathered to personally congratulate the young tennis star on her historic achievement. Their presence demonstrated that Alex's success was not viewed as an ordinary tournament result, but as a milestone worthy of recognition by the country's leading sports institutions. The celebration became even more memorable when a live cultural performance welcomed her arrival. A traditional Filipino folk ensemble performed with indigenous musical instruments, filling the airport with music that celebrated both the nation's rich cultural heritage and the remarkable athlete who had brought honor to the Philippines on the world stage. The emotional significance of the moment was impossible to ignore. Alex herself appeared genuinely overwhelmed by the extraordinary reception. Looking around at the cheering crowds, the government officials, the cultural performers, and the endless sea of smiling faces, she could hardly believe what she was witnessing. With visible surprise and humility, she reportedly asked whether everything unfolding before her was truly meant for her. The answer was unmistakable. Every cheer, every flag, every performance, every handshake, every photograph, and every heartfelt welcome was dedicated to celebrating her historic accomplishments. Yet, remarkable as that airport reception was, it represented only the first chapter of an even greater celebration. Just 2 days later, Eala received the highest honor of her homecoming when the doors of Malacanang Palace opened to welcome her. There, inside the historic residence of the President of the Republic of the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. personally honored Alex for her extraordinary achievements, recognizing not only the records she had broken but also the inspiration, hope, and pride she had brought to millions of Filipinos through one of the greatest moments in the history of Philippine tennis. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. hosted a full homecoming reception for Eala at Malacanang Palace, welcoming her not merely as a talented young athlete returning from an international tournament but as a national champion whose accomplishments had united an entire country. The ceremony carried the significance and dignity of a true state recognition, the kind of honor typically reserved for Filipinos who have made extraordinary contributions to the nation through public service, culture, science, or sport. From the moment Alex entered the historic halls of Malacanang, it was evident that this was far more than a routine congratulatory event. Government officials, members of the media, leaders from the Philippine sports community, and distinguished guests gathered together to celebrate a young woman whose remarkable Wimbledon campaign had captured the attention of the entire world and inspired millions of Filipinos at home and abroad. The atmosphere inside the palace was filled with admiration, gratitude, and pride, as everyone present understood they were witnessing a truly historic occasion for Philippine sports. Alex's achievements had already secured her place in the history books, but the reception at Malacanang elevated those accomplishments to an even greater level, recognizing not only what she had achieved on the tennis court but also what she had come to represent for the Filipino people. She was no longer viewed simply as one of the country's brightest sporting talents. She had become a symbol of hope, perseverance, discipline, and national excellence. When President Marcos stepped to the microphone, his remarks reflected the emotions shared by millions across the country. Rather than offering a brief or ceremonial congratulation, he delivered a heartfelt tribute that emphasized the deeper meaning of Eala's success. Looking directly at the 21-year-old tennis star, he told her that she reminds Filipinos of what makes their nation truly great. He explained that her accomplishments represented much more than victories in tennis tournaments or an impressive rise in the WTA rankings. In his view, Alex embodied the finest qualities of the Filipino people: determination, humility, resilience, courage, discipline, grace under pressure, and unwavering commitment to excellence. He praised the calm confidence she displays during the most intense moments of competition and the dignity with which she carries herself both on and off the court. According to the president, those qualities have become just as inspiring as her victories because they demonstrate to the world the true character of the Filipino people. Speaking before the assembled audience and national media, he declared that the way Alex competes and the way she conducts herself fills the country with pride because she represents the very best of what it means to be Filipino. He remarked that she reminds the nation why Filipinos are a great people, transforming her achievements into something that transcended sport itself. It was a remarkable moment, as the President of the Republic of the Philippines publicly recognized a young athlete not only for winning matches but for becoming a symbol of national identity and inspiration. His words carried extraordinary weight because they acknowledged that Alex's influence now extends far beyond tennis. She has become a role model for young athletes, an inspiration for students chasing ambitious dreams, and a powerful reminder that Filipinos can compete successfully on the world's biggest stages through talent, hard work, and perseverance. President Marcos also emphasized that Alex's remarkable rise was never the result of overnight success. He reminded everyone that her journey had been years in the making, tracing it back to her earliest achievements as a junior player. He recalled following her career long before she became a household name, including the time she captured the Australian Open girls doubles title at just 14 years old. Even at that young age, many people recognized her exceptional potential and began asking whether she could someday become one of the world's top players. Reflecting on those conversations, President Marcos revealed that his response had always been the same. He believed Alex was only at the beginning of her journey and that her greatest accomplishments were still ahead of her. Looking back now, those words seem remarkably prophetic. Years later, Eala stands as the highest-ranked Filipino woman in WTA history, a Grand Slam fourth-round breakthrough performer, the recipient of one of the nation's highest honors, and one of the brightest rising stars in international tennis. Yet despite everything she has already achieved, there remains a growing sense that this extraordinary chapter is only the foundation of an even greater story still waiting to unfold. Standing before Eala after her historic Wimbledon breakthrough, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. reflected on a journey that had taken years of sacrifice, perseverance, and unwavering determination to reach this remarkable moment. Looking at the young tennis star who had just captured the attention of the sporting world, he said that she had proven what many had hoped for years, that her enormous potential was real and that she had fulfilled the promise she showed from an early age. Her extraordinary performance at Wimbledon was not simply a collection of impressive victories or a sudden rise in the rankings. It was the realization of a dream that had been built through countless hours of training, years spent competing far from home, and a level of dedication that few people ever truly witness. President Marcos explained that Alex's achievements represented much more than personal success because they had become a source of inspiration for an entire nation. Every time she stepped onto the court wearing the Philippine flag on her sleeve, millions of Filipinos felt they were standing beside her, sharing every triumph, every challenge, and every unforgettable moment. Her journey had become the country's journey, and her victories had become victories celebrated by people from every corner of the Philippines and by Filipino communities across the world. According to the president, Alex had shown that with courage, discipline, humility, and relentless hard work, a Filipino athlete could compete with the very best on one of the biggest stages in international sport. Looking at her after her historic run, he expressed confidence that she had not only fulfilled the expectations people once had for her but had exceeded them in ways that very few could have imagined. The young girl who once dreamed of competing with the world's elite had now become one of the brightest stars in women's tennis, and in doing so, she had inspired countless others to believe that their own dreams could also become reality. Perhaps the most emotional part of the president's remarks came when he described just how deeply Alex's Wimbledon journey had touched the lives of ordinary Filipinos. He spoke about people across the Philippines and in Filipino communities around the world rearranging their schedules, staying awake through the early hours of the morning, and gathering around televisions, computers, and mobile phones simply to watch her matches. He painted the picture of a nation united by one athlete's extraordinary performance, describing stories of people pausing their daily routines so they would not miss a single point, healthcare workers and caregivers following her matches whenever they could, families watching together despite the challenging time difference, and supporters celebrating every victory as though they were experiencing the moments alongside her. Whether every individual example could be independently confirmed was ultimately less important than the powerful message behind his words. The president was expressing a truth that millions of Filipinos already felt in their hearts, that Alex Eala had become a unifying figure whose achievements brought joy, pride, and hope to people from all walks of life. For those unforgettable days at Wimbledon, the country seemed to rally behind one athlete carrying the Philippine flag onto one of the most prestigious stages in world sport, celebrating every point with extraordinary passion and believing together that history was being made. President Marcos also took time to recognize the people whose sacrifices laid the foundation for Alex's remarkable success long before the world knew her name. He turned his attention to her parents, acknowledging the extraordinary courage and faith it took to support their daughter's ambitious dream. Years earlier, when Alex was only 13 years old, they made the life-changing decision to allow her to leave home and travel thousands of kilometers away to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, one of the most respected tennis academies in the world. It was not simply a decision about sports. It meant trusting a young teenager to pursue an uncertain future in a highly competitive profession where success is never guaranteed. It meant accepting years of separation, missed family celebrations, difficult goodbyes, and countless emotional challenges, all in the hope that their daughter might one day achieve something extraordinary. President Marcos openly acknowledged how difficult that choice must have been, speaking from his own experience as a parent. He reflected on what it feels like to send children away from home at such a young age, understanding both the pride and the heartbreak that accompanies such a decision. With genuine appreciation, he thanked Alex's parents for believing in their daughter's dream when she was still just a young girl carrying little more than a tennis racket, determination, and an unwavering belief in what might one day be possible. Their willingness to make those sacrifices, he suggested, played an essential role in the remarkable story the world is witnessing today. As Alex stood beside her family inside